That's right, people. It's that time again, and I hope that you guys are joining in on this. You're going to be enjoying this. And that's it. We're going to be going in for this straight away. We're going to be jamming hard. And I've got a groovy guy with me today. I know it's not mortgage related, but again, my Facebook Live side by side is always about one big thing. It's to give everyone within the group a chance to talk about their business. More importantly, to be able to say a little bit about themselves as well. And I'm very happy and proud today to have a good friend of mine, Snook, to be part of this Facebook Live side by side. I'll be monitoring the comments that will be coming in. Feel free, guys. Put any questions across to Carl, especially you budding, aspiring writers out there, script writers, screenwriters. I don't care who you are. Feel free to put your stuff across. If you're even thinking about writing a book, get that in. Yeah, I may not be wearing a shirt today, but you know what? It's too damn hot. You know, if you're enjoying summertime, give me a like, because I'm definitely starting to enjoy it again. Okay, right, so let's get, without any further ado, let me introduce everyone to Carl Snook. How you doing, Carl?
Hi, man. How's it going?
It's all good. It's all good. So tell us more about, of the last couple of weeks, I've been talking about Akio the Dreamworld in terms of, in my Facebook Lives. But I thought, you know what, it'd be good if you decide to talk about it and let the world know all about Akio.
Right, sure. Yeah, Akio the Dreamworld. I've got a hard copy here. Bit of a plug. There you go. There is the book. There.
Yeah.
Was one of many stories that I was writing. From a very, very young age, I've written stories. I was obsessed with the fantasy world. In fact, ever since I was first read The Hobbit by a friend of mine's uncle, France Elul. Wonderful man. He was a tutor of mine. He read me The Hobbit when I was young, and I was hooked on that fantasy world. It drew me in so much, and it was so impressive of how there was an entire world. There was dictionaries on language, there was maps, there was different sets of people and different creatures that all existed, and he'd really created this whole world in his head. And he was a college professor. The line, in a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. He wrote on someone's exam paper, I believe, once he was marking exams. And that fantasy world, just, my God, it was brilliant. And it started this whole love of, I've got like 350 DVDs. I've got books and books and books on fantasy things. I've got one of the dwarven dictionaries. I collect things like swords and wands, different weapons of different. I mean, this is comic books as well, and
Mjolnir in the background.
Yeah, and I figured, that world was just so inviting to me that I wanted to start trying to write my own. And like I said, I've got hundreds and hundreds of them in a drawer in this room somewhere. But this one in particular, Akio the Dreamworld, was one I was writing whilst I was taking care of my mum when she had her cancer diagnosis. It was a very, very long 10 months, very, very hard 10 months. And I would write bits of Akio to sort of, not as an escape, because, it was my responsibility to take care of her. I was there for her, whatever she needed. But it was a world that I could escape to at night, where I could literally enter the dream world and create this world around me that wasn't really happening, that wasn't real life. And she was reading it as I was writing it. I would present her with the pages after I'd finished a certain bit of it. And she really, really liked it. She seemed to get into it. She always said that I had a great imagination. And the reason why this one sort of went the distance, especially Akio, was that she actually unfortunately died when I was about halfway through. I hadn't finished it, and she never got to read the end. So I figured if there was ever going to be anything in my life that I was going to push for, and no matter what road, whatever it took, was Akio. I wanted to finish it because she had read half of it. So I did. I trudged on. I finished it. I dedicated it to her. There's a dedication for her on the back. And it was just that kind of, the dream world became not only mine, it was hers as well. It was quite a therapeutical thing to think that, she didn't pass away. She just went to the dream world. And that's pretty much, the why this one sort of got into official book form, really.
And again, with a lot of people, whenever they do, any kind of books, or any kind of articles, anything, is generally just an expression of either pain or a way of, as a release valve, to get your thoughts onto paper, just get it out of your system. You create a book from it, which obviously has done quite well, and is still being promoted quite heavily across Amazon and all these other platforms. So, would you like to explain a little bit about the book itself?
Yeah, sure. So Akio is a young boy who his dad has been given a new job in the city. They are moving him from one area that he's known and loved and grown up in to a different place. It was trying to get a sense of sometimes things drastically change in your life, and you can be young, you can be, into your 30s, no matter when, but especially for, I think, children and young people, it can be very difficult, big change. So I thought that would be quite good. It's a drastic change. He doesn't like it, but what happens is that in the move itself, he's actually taken off into this dream world, which is even more different to what he thought, a new life would be. It then happens that there's a bigger story for him once he gets to the dream world. In fact, I mean, on the back of the book itself, again, it says that he has this new world thrust upon him, where in a matter of minutes, even a dream world is turned upside down.
Right.
So I wanted to get a sense of not so much that he was on his own in this dream world, but how someone sort of reacts to stuff like that. I mean, how would one react when they're taken off into this different kind of world where magic is a thing, and it's like nothing you've ever seen before. There is something that is very heavily based upon him once he gets there. I don't want to reveal too much about what's in it.
No, of course not.
Please read it. But a lot of changes, a lot of things he has to accept, a lot of growth in him as a person as well, and a lot of learning about things that are out there that he might not have encountered yet.
Okay, guys, if you guys are watching this, please give us a like. Let us know that you're here. If you've got any questions for Carl, please put them forward. This is going to be something, again, to actually have a real life author sitting right next to me. Well, not next to me, but side by side. Again, if you used to read Stephen King novels and stuff like that, and when you was growing up as a kid, then it's always good to talk to an author about even the writing process. So, like, how did you start? Why did we know what made you get into it? But I know a lot of people have tried to write books and they just fail. What made you get to that point where you could finish it?
I mean, it's a slog. I'm not going to beat around the bush. It's hard. When you are, especially at the beginning, you might have the beginnings of an idea, and you'll sit down at your laptop or your pad of paper, and people say that looking at a blank piece of paper is the hardest part. I don't think that it is, because once you actually have the idea, you might be able to write the first 5, 10, whatever pages. You might be able to get there. It's once you get to page number 5 or 10, you've got to create the story first. It's all very well creating the beginnings of an idea and sort of knowing where you want to go with it, but it's very difficult. And the first idea is never ever the final idea. You will go back, you will change things, you will get rid of whole sections. In fact, there was sections of the first half of the book that after my mum had passed away, I changed them. I went back and I actually changed parts that I thought would better appeal to people that might be going through the same thing. So it's never your first idea will never be your final idea, and you do have to be patient with it as well, because frustration becomes a block, and then a block becomes even more of a frustration. So the circle just goes round and round, and that will happen. It definitely will happen. If anybody thinks that they'll just be like, oh, I'll be able to sit down, I'll be able to write a 200-page book, no problem. I doubt that would be possible, only because it's a very long process as well. So you're definitely going to change your mind through that time. I mean, just this is only, there's 124 pages in this book. And even just an 124-page book, the whole process, the writing of it, actually took about a year and a half to write it and to actually finish or get to the point where I had a finished manuscript. And then the publishing side of it, that was another year on top of that. It was finding the right people. Who did you want to work with? A hell of a lot of knockdowns, as I'm sure people would expect would happen.
Yeah.
Writing a book. I actually got told, no word of a lie, and I won't reference the the people that said it to me, but I was told that fantasy didn't sell anymore. Was actually a line that I got told. This is before stuff like Game of Thrones was picked up for TV.
Yeah.
This is stuff like, The Witcher is a thing now, that's on television. It's fantasy always has sold, and you could tell that them just by saying that line, fantasy doesn't sell anymore. It was just them saying, look, we don't want to talk to you. Please go away. And that will happen. That will happen a lot. I mean, what's the story of was it J.K. Rowling was turned down 12 times before?
Yeah, easily.
Picked her up. But I think for me, it was, I decided to go to a American company that did it on a self-published basis. Because the idea is that I wanted this book to be out. I wanted people to know, Akio and my story. It's, me and Akio, we sit hand in hand. There's parts of his personality that were reflected from me. So I wanted people to know mine and Akio's story. So, I spoke to them. I spoke to a couple of people that were on the self-publish route. I picked a certain company. They designed quite a dull brown and, sort of very dark cover for the book, which I didn't really like. But when you're trying to get something out and, you want, I just want this finished, I want it done, I just want this published so that people can read the story. I just was like, okay, yeah, that's great, let's do it. But the communication was difficult because they were over in the States, the time difference, emails were difficult. Even if you were trying to email backwards and forwards, it would sometimes be, over a day, because I'd send it like in the afternoon, but their afternoon is actually morning, and their afternoon is my very first thing in the morning. And it was about, I think, a year into it of having been released, that I decided that this wasn't working. I couldn't talk to them. Basically, I say I couldn't talk to them. I could barely talk to them. I didn't like the cover. I didn't think it was very appealing. So I figured, and I sent them an email and I said, look, this isn't anything you've done wrong. It's just, this is a bit difficult. I want to move it to someone over here in England. How would I do that? They were quite helpful in the releasing. I own the rights to Akio the Dreamworld. That's the same. With self-publish, you will own the rights to anything. What it generally says in your contract is that you own the rights to all characters, everything that's put inside of the 2 pages. But in terms of the printing of it physically, you have to sign over a certain amount of waiver to the company that you are self-publishing with to say that you are the guys that will print my book. I can sell it anywhere I like. It's my property. I own the copyright, but they are the only one allowed to print it. So releasing all that, and they were quite helpful in the whole, okay, we are relinquishing this so you can take it somewhere else. They were very, very good about that. It was no hard feelings at all by either of us. And I moved that over to a company over here, New Gem, who have been fantastic. One of the first things, of course, I asked them was, can I please design the cover myself? Because I really didn't like the brown cover. It wasn't appealing. I wanted something brighter. I wanted something that, when it was sitting there, people would, whether it be the castle, the dragon, the train track in the clouds, which leads into the dream world, it was much better. I wanted something that would pop out at someone straight away, not just the name of the book. So, yeah, patience is 100% need it. Definitely need it. And it's not going to be easy. There are going to be times where you feel you're hitting wall after wall after wall after wall. So if you are, and that's what's happening, and you feel you're hitting the wall, and then you might try something else and you hit another wall, the only thing you can do is keep moving the goalposts. You will find one. Something will work. You just have to keep at it. Determination is key. Just keep going.
How many did you go to before you hit, new gen publishing?
So there was 2 or 3 that I went to. I think New Gen was a 4th that I found. What I liked about them was they were actually a smaller based company, which means that every time I called them, I was calling directly into their office. I didn't have to go through any of this, receptionists or, assistants or anything. I could call in and talk directly to them every time. And I liked that because it was something I didn't have before. Again, like I said, it was a different goalpost. I'd learned from the first experience that I wanted to talk to someone straight away. So that was a learning curve. That is something that I did learn, and you'll always will learn. With every mistake that's made, or everything you feel that you might not have done quite right, you will always learn from it. And yeah, they were about the 4th. But there might be more than that, and again, you've got to take that into account. It might take more tries. It might not be the perfect scenario that maybe you want. You've got to find something that's right for you as well as them.
Also, again, you was doing a full-time job as well, and another part-time business on top of that. Hence why it took so long.
Yeah.
How did you stay so motivated while everything else is going on around you to get the book done?
It's a determination. It really is. You've got to. People say that it's those ones that just carry on. It's the persistent ones that make it. Rather than those that get a break. I'm somewhat of that. I think sometimes people do get a break and maybe haven't realised that they've been given that break. Other people might not get given a break and they've got maybe work a bit harder. But whatever the situation is, wherever you're them, the other, or in the middle, you've just got to keep that dream alive. And it's everyone's heard a lot the phrase pipe dream. It's something that everybody knows. As soon as you say those 2 words, you know what someone's talking about. And I can understand where they're coming from. They don't want people to waste their lives on dreams because they'll lose touch on reality. However, JK was a dreamer, Tolkien was a dreamer, King was a dreamer. Look at it. I mean, Tesla have just sent up a rocket into space. Their owner's a dreamer. Yeah, understand the theory of pipe dream, but don't let that get in the way. If there's something that you want to do, or you want to try, or you want to, succeed as best you can in, just do it. Just do it and keep that determination alive, because the persistence will pay off if you do it over and over. I mean, there are going to be times when you lose that. Of course there is, especially over a long period of time. And it's the hardest thing to do as well. You will hit these walls, and it might be that you feel, I can't be bothered to do this anymore. I've been knocked down too often. Maybe it is a pipe dream. Maybe I should just quit. Just push through that. Because I promise you, if it's not the exact thing that you want to get to, maybe something else good will come out of there.
There's a few guys who have joined us, and guys, feel free. Ask a question. This is your opportunity as well.
Yeah.
And more importantly, give us a like. Let us know you're here. Even if you don't like my hairstyle, give me a negative. Let me know you're here. And, this is your chance. Feel free to ask away. And again, if you're watching this on the replay, ask. We're here. Well, I mean, Carl will be here to definitely answer your questions. What sort of advice would you give to someone who's looking to start a book? But they don't know where to start or how to start. What is it that you would say to them?
In terms of the story itself?
Story, or it could be, not fiction, but it could be non-fiction, such as maybe, I don't know, exercise, or it could be, I don't know.
I mean, advice I would give, and the first thing to always remember when writing, even if it is, whether it's fact or fiction, thing you have to remember is that every single story in life has come from an element of real. Everything has. People say, if you mentioned Lord of the Rings, people would say, oh, that's a story about them taking a ring to a mountain. It's a bad guy who made the ring. And yes, that's all in there. But the actual fundamental thing that's on the sort of underside of Lord of the Rings is friendship and loyalty. You know, a lot of people miss that about Lord of the Rings. It's not just about a ring. It's not just about a hobbit. You know, it's about the friendship and loyalty and the lengths that these guys have gone for each other as well. So that friendship element would have come from somewhere. You know, whether it was a group of friends that Tolkien had, or something that he'd seen, or something that had inspired him to write about that. You know, especially with stuff like fiction, fantasy, or anything like that. I suppose the best advice I can give would be: don't fear the bizarre. Do not fear the bizarre, because it's, again, when you look at stuff like fantasy and, you know, magic, you know, The Color of Magic by King and, you know, Pratchett. You look at, again, Lord of the Rings, or, I mean, Studio Ghibli actually was a very heavy influencer in Akio. You know, when you look at all those things, like, again, with Lord of the Rings, you'd think that a bunch of hobbits, you know, fighting a dark lord who could do magic and lived in, you know, in a volcano mountain, and, you know, or the Hobbit where, you know, he's in a dwarf's vault filled with gold speaking to a dragon. You know, the only reason we accept that as a layer these days is because we've already seen it. We've already accepted that it's a thing because it already exists. But at some point, if you were Tolkien and you'd said to someone, I'm going to write about a hobbit talking to a dragon, you'd sound mental. You know, it doesn't sound normal at all. So do not fear the bizarre. It doesn't matter how weird or strange your idea is. It's exactly how everything else started. Exactly how everything else started. I've got dragons, pixies, you know, and stuff in my book. And, you know, do pixies really exist? No, of course they don't exist. But the only reason we accept them, again, as a reality is because we've already seen another medium with them in it. So we just accept that as fine because it's already a thing. But again, go back to the beginning. When someone first mentioned the idea of pixies, I bet everyone thought they were mad. I bet everyone thought, what the hell are you talking about? What is this pixie thing you're talking about? That's not real. You know, so honestly, do not fear the bizarre. And take as much as you can from real situations that may have happened, life experience, and turn them into something spectacular.
That is wise advice, because again, you know, there's a lot of people that will be, it's a fear factor. Should I do this? But fear for me is false evidence appearing real. That's something that your mind creates all the time, you know, to stop you from actually doing what you need to do, which is get on with it. And you know, getting on with it is the toughest for me. You know, it's always been one of the toughest things, especially in more recent times, because so many distractions around. You know, why would you do this now when you can do something else? You know, but that discipline is the most crucial thing to have, and you've had a very good reason why to do it, which was, you know, your personal experiences. So we've also recently seen Neil Gaiman. His series, The Sandman, is now going to become a movie. A Netflix series.
Netflix series, yeah.
Yeah. So if Akio was to be turned into a Netflix series, who would you like to see as your ideal cast members?
Oh wow! I've never even considered the premise of it ever becoming anything else than the small blue book that I have. That is difficult because there's quite a lot of good young actors that have come through, especially in the last couple of years. I can't remember the chap's name, unfortunately. The guy who played Elton John, who was in, of course, The Kingsman as well. Very good. I like him. He is such a good. He's what? Sorry.
Taron Egerton, something like that.
That sounds about right. Yeah. I think it might be him. Yeah. He's very, very good.
If anyone's watching this and can correct me, please do.
Know his name. But again, casting-wise, I mean, it's somewhat difficult because, I mean, I don't think it ruins anything at all to reveal Akio's age. He's 16 in the book. Again, because very heavily Studio Ghibli based in the fact that, and it's a line that I really, really like and I think is absolutely true, is when it comes to imagination or when it comes to believing in fantasy, you know, children have a much better hold on that than adults do. Adults lose their imagination. Adults lose their gain on fantasy, and they get too real sometimes. So I just felt that something like Akio wouldn't work with anybody older, because they wouldn't have bought into the fantasy. They wouldn't have bought it. You send a 30, 40-year-old into the dream world, they'll just be standing there and they're with their hands on their hips going, what's going on here? It wouldn't have worked. So yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I know any actors or young actors that be in. I don't think I know any actors that are that young anymore or look that young.
Well, you do have Tom Holland that's still playing Spider-Man.
Well, actually, I tell you what, Holland might be a good shout, but although you do have to turn him blonde, but no, he would be a good shout. I love Tom Holland as well. I tell you what, the 3 times they've tried Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, brilliant Peter Parker, absolutely brilliant Peter Parker, but rubbish Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield, brilliant Spider-Man, had the quips, absolutely brilliant at the Spider-Man stuff, but he was too cool to be Peter Parker. That didn't work either. But then, as soon as Marvel got their hands on it, they got
the right balance.
Yeah, they picked Tom Holland. Beautiful, absolutely right. Typecast to a T.
We've had a comment from Dom Smith. Dom, thank you for joining us. Yo, guys, I know me and Carl have spoken about this before. I really want to write something like a sitcom based on my wacky adventures. Should I write it as a story first and then do a script?
Yeah, I would say definitely write it as a story first, because script writing is actually a lot different to book writing. It's very, very different, because with a script, you don't build essentially the world around it or what's happening. It's very much a director's job to take a script and turn it into something. It's them sort of that creates the world. Whereas when you take a book and turn that into a script, so it went actually the other way, it's much better because the world already exists. So it doesn't matter how much or how little when you turn it into, a script, it doesn't matter how much or little is in there, because the world itself already exists if you've already written the story. So I would suggest definitely to write it as a book first, and create the world before it's turned into like a manuscript or script.
And he's also said, I also still need to buy your book too. I would say Carl will be giving a special link a little bit later on. That will help with your, where you can find the book and where you can purchase it. So this will be, quite, another way of putting yourself forward. And hopefully, Dom, you will be able to buy the book.
Hopefully. Easier now, Dom, as well. It's ebook as well now, so it's even easier now.
But yeah, actually it is. So we take it one step at a time. Harry, thanks for joining us. Right, so with all of this which is going on at the moment, so we've also had the Akio side. Is there going to be a sequel?
There is. In fact, when I came up with the idea for Akio the Dreamworld, it was actually part of a planned trilogy. The second one I actually did start writing a couple of years ago, but other ideas and other things sort of just took precedent.
Life happens.
Yeah, life kind of got in the way a bit. It's definitely something I'm going to finish. The second one is, I've decided on genuinely what's going to happen in all 3 of them. I'd already decided. So there is a second one that will be Akio and the Diamond of Ruana. And the third one is Akio in the New Kingdom. It's kind of a whole story that I kind of took the advice of Tolkien's publishers, where they told him, not many people know, that Lord of the Rings was actually, to start with, 2 books. That's how it started, and it was his publishers that suggested that these 2 books are too long, they need to be 3. So I kind of had an entire story that I broke up into bits, going, well, this is kind of the main bit, this is book number 1, and then during the story, the returning to the dream world, it's almost kind of an automatic cutoff. It created itself because he went back to the dream world. So you turn that into book number 2, because he's already done the first bit. He's already gone there. He's already done whatever it is that he does in the first book. So he's already done it. So, and the third one is very much once you read it, you'll understand a lot better. But there's a reason why he has to go back. There's also a reason why See, I can't say too much about ruining the end of
No, you
the
don't need
first
to.
one.
You don't need to. The main thing is, guys, buy the book. Click the link and buy it. So it's not gonna. You'll be surprised at the price as well, especially coming from this group. Thankfully, it's Carl's helped us out quite well here. And again, we've got summer holidays coming up. This book is ideally guided towards the young adults, so the teenagers, those that are going to secondary school, and some who've gone through, from certain personal experiences as well that may not have, access to many of the other things which go on within the book. So the book is kind of therapeutic in that way. Would I be right in saying that?
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah. So again, from a selfish point of view, if you get a book and you give it to your kids for them to read, that'll keep them quiet for a little bit longer. So there's many benefits of having a book. And again, you're helping with literacy and all the rest of that kind of stuff. I was a massive comic book fan when I was growing up as a kid. It helped me. And the same thing when it moved into the horror genre of books. Stephen King, Dean Koontz, those kinds of people would read them all the time. So it does help with a lot of the imagination, the creativity, and far more. It will keep them occupied, while they're reading something and feeding their mind with something good. Okay, right. So we talked about, the dream world, and we've talked about all the other things which are going on. You've got quite a few things on the go at the moment. You're doing your second book at the moment?
I'm in the process of actually writing 3 more in parts. So the second Akio is one of them. There is also one that is called The Secret of the Nevermoor, which the general idea behind The Secret of the Nevermoor is, imagine all the things that don't happen, or all the choices you don't make, or each and everything that happens that isn't what you chose. And it's very difficult to explain what I mean, in the fact that, so say you decided to buy a blue Ford Escort, and there was a green one and a red one, as well.
Yeah.
What happens to the green one and the red one? You bought the blue one. You know what that happens with that. What happens to the other two? Or what happens to, all the thoughts and all dreams that we don't have?
It's the what ifs. It's the alternatives.
Yeah, it's the what ifs. It's the theory that Red Dwarf have used a few times, in that each and every choice creates a alternate reality where everything is played out in its own separate field. All I did was take all those other realities and put them into one place, and said, and that's why it's called the Nevermoor. The Nevermoor is the world where every choice that wasn't made goes. And this guy finds his way to the Nevermoor, and it's down to not only him but a couple of people that join him along the way to find out what actually is the secret of the Nevermoor. So that's another one I'm writing, and the third one, which I've only just started. I think me and you did speak about it a couple of months ago, actually. I started a new story called The Magic Quest. And the Magic Quest is, where did magic come from? It's almost like a prequel to every fantasy book that's ever been written. It was not, this is a world of magic, this is what happens, there's dragons flying around and wizards fighting each other. The Magic Quest is about where magic came from. It's a prequel to everything fantasy that has ever happened.
I thought there might. Sorry, I thought there would be a little bit more to that. Well, that's brilliant. So we've got something that's going to be coming up, and everyone to look forward to here. And just keep us posted when it's going to get published. And again, we know the difficulties with getting things published, but you've now found that publisher that will be more than happy to do it. Your experiences with publisher versus self-publishing, because it seems like self-publishing is more the way how things are going at the moment. More and more people are getting into the self-publishing world as opposed to waiting for a publisher to then do things. Because now, once you've got your book published, you've got to get it out there.
Yeah.
So how did you go about getting, I know that you've done book drives and stuff like that, but how did you go about doing things?
Well, there's a number of things that I've tried. Creating a Facebook page, obviously, in the modern world is a must. It's on my website. It's got its own page on my website as well, carlsnook.com. I did a book signing with W.H. Smith down in Wickham. In fact, a year ago, I think, this month, and it's just little things like that. I mean, so the two differences are that publishing of the traditional sense, will get you much further in the being known, getting your story out there, becoming a big deal. Obviously, traditional publishing that's the world that you get with them, but with hundreds upon thousands of people that write are very good at it. There's bound to be loads out there that are better than me. Publishers don't pick them up. There's only a certain amount of room on each publishing house that exists. I understand that. But if you want that big grandiose world, you've got to keep trying. You've got to keep plugging away with the big ones. But it might not happen. Self-publishing is much easier to get the work out there and into a physical thing, a physical product. Like I said, mine has just been converted into ebook as well. But with self-publishing, that's what they do. That's all they do, because it's your responsibility to get it out there. You are the advertising drive that drives behind a self-published book. So it's choosing between the two. It really depends on, and not in a kind of spoiled, chauvinistic way or whatever. Or you've got to choose between: are you in it for the money and the career, or are you in it for the works to be seen by people, to let people enjoy the story that was in your head? It's really choosing between those two things, because if it's just about getting a story out there and sharing your mind with the world, self-publishing would be perfect. But it is your responsibility to do the advertising and get it out there. With the traditional publishing, I don't want to say that it won't happen, but there's a very high possibility that it won't. So it's really choosing between which path, really.
Yeah, I think basically just to get the experience, getting the book done is one task. Then getting it published is another task.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, getting it out there once it's published is the final task. It's so that it can generate the sales, and having it across as many platforms as possible to be able to sell it. And again, the work that you've done with the marketing, again, I shared within the group the video that you created, which had the dragon in it, which was absolutely wonderful. Just to see that. And again, as marketing, from anyone who does marketing, will straight away think, what, this is something. We can do something with this. We can just drive it across. It's just now connecting the people with the product and how people can get to the product. And also having this conversation with yourself today has been actually quite useful, especially to me, because again, anyone who knows anything about whether it's sales, marketing, anything to do with this kind of things, people buying people, and understanding what your motivation was to do this was actually quite nice to listen to. So if you guys are watching this on the replay, feel free, again, click the link when Carl puts it out there, just to go to his website or pick up the product. Feel free to do that. I think Carl will appreciate that, and I'll definitely appreciate it too. Okay, so we talked about Akio, we talked about the publishing versus self-publishing, we talked about all kinds of things, your motivation, what kept you going through it, the difficulties and challenges that you had of writing the book, just to finish off a book. Guys, if you guys are watching this right now and you're letting me, let me know if you are gaining any kind of benefit from this, for you, because I know that there's a lot of people that will aspire to be authors that like to write about their life story or their events that have taken place. Even some people like doing blogs, which is good. Blogs are still a very good, popular thing. It's always good to know where to start from. And again, you got your own website, so you've got a way of promoting it. Is there any other projects that you do?
Yeah, so I'm the promoter of Entertainment Wrestling Association in High Wycombe.
Mm-hmm.
I do that. I'm very much into my graphic design, 3D rendering, and stuff like that. I really like that. Web development, I love to sort of get in, and I've learned a lot of CSS code.
Oh yeah.
Not nearly everything that exists, most certainly not. But CSS coding, I like to look at. I'm a previous musician. I don't want to say musician now because I think the last time I sat at my piano must have been about 2 years ago. I've not sat there for a long, long time. I do have a shelf of guitars that hasn't been. They need some more love. I need to look after them. I need to check a bit. So, I mean, there's a saying that someone once told me that you have a finger in every pie because one of them will taste good. There is, of course, the side that another good friend of mine said, good at many, a master of none. That is true. That does happen. I'm certainly not a master in anything because I think I try too many different things. But I find that exhilarating. The more stuff that I've tried or the more stuff that I've done, like I said, I've been a musician. I do 3D rendering. I do web development. I do the wrestling. I write. It keeps the brain active, and when you've got a mind like mine that's going 100 miles a second, where everything I see or creates an idea or an opportunity or something, just an idea in my head, you have to keep it active. So again, try anything you want. You never know. There might be a secret artist, somewhere hiding deep within someone that you don't know about yet because they haven't tried it yet. How would you know? Salvador Dali, Melting Clocks, everyone knows who he is. He might have been, in his very early years, he might not have known that he was a fantastic painter until he tried it. You have to try it. How are you ever going to know if you don't try? You're not going to know.
Yeah, and that is what we discussed last week. At what point do you say, no, this isn't working for me? Because let's face it, there's plenty of things out there that we all dabble in, but we'll become master at one of them once we found our real passion.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest challenge out there. But, it's the numbers game. You have to go through the numbers just to find what is absolutely right and suits you. And I think with yourself, like what you said, you've done music, you've done graphic design, you've done, sales as well, and all the other things, and you've got your wrestling promotion too, which is where me and him met. Me and Carl, we both met at wrestling, and again, it's really weird how we've developed as friends since that point as well. But thankfully, it's a good journey along the way. Do things. That's the message which is coming out clearly from this. You just got to try something, anything, go out there. And wherever it doesn't work, it's fine. At least you've got your head held high and say, I tried it.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if it's not for you. And I mean, like on your Facebook Live, the one I was watching, maybe there is a certain point where you feel that this isn't working. It doesn't mean that you still can't enjoy it. The more things you try and the more things that you find that you enjoy, not only does it provide a better, healthy mind, for you, just going, you found something else that you enjoy. So that is brilliant. Health, especially mental health is incredibly important. And people having gone through COVID and, we were shutting our houses for 2 months, people's mental health was, in a lot of places reaching breaking point. So always adding anything that you enjoy to your repertoire can never be a bad thing. It might not be something that you work at as hard because maybe it's not for you anymore, but at least you tried it. You might find something that you enjoy, and who knows, it might turn into something.
Yeah. And the thing is, once you've got the passion behind it, sooner or later, you're going to find how to turn that passion into real action, turn the action into something that can be monetized. Again, I may go into the whole money-making thing behind it, but the reality is, if you've got passion, good, but you still need to eat.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. You still need to eat. You still need to feed yourself. So don't sacrifice your passion for food. You need to keep going. You need to feed your passion. And from what I've found, again, one of the books CDs that I listened to was Rich Dad Poor Dad, or Rich Dad Secrets, Robert Kiyosaki. One of the biggest things that he came out and said is, you know what, have your business, but also have a job if you wanted to. Have the job, keep it paid, until your business grows to the point where it's double your income from your job, because then you know that you are happy, you're satisfied, no matter what. So keep doing everything that you can. And for millionaire makers out there, they don't have one source of income. They've got 7.
Yeah.
So if you've got more than one source of income going in, yes, you have to become a master at one of them, but that doesn't mean that you're going to neglect all the others unless they're not working. Then you've got to find out what you've got to do to make it work. And that is then you turn yourself from a dabbler to a doer, from a doer to plateauing, then becoming a master. And from what you've done, you've found your passions, and hence why with the writing, you've got more books behind you. With the wrestling, you've got a successful wrestling promotion out there. Regardless of what anyone else says, the figures are there. It's a successful wrestling promotion, and then you've also got Akio as a book, which is now out there, because once you put, this is the best thing about writing, the best thing about doing videos, the best thing about doing anything in this day and age. Once it's out there, it can still blow up. You just got to get the work done to get it out there.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like me with mortgages and my good looks, But yeah, this is basically where we stand. So, Carl, what is for the future for yourself? Are you going, I know COVID has had a massive impact on many areas, including business. Are you looking to get the book out, do more book signings in the future? Is anything like that going to take place?
I mean, I'd never say no to people who would like me to come down and do a book signing, or I suppose what I'd really like to do is more sort of maybe things like this, or talking to a group of people, or talking to people who are in the same mindset would be quite an exciting thing to do. There is a writing group that does happen down at the local art centre in Wickham here, which obviously has had to stop because COVID-19 has happened. But yeah, I mean, any and all interest that people might find in not only the book itself, but like you were interested in the process, in the hows, the whys, and the whats. That's brilliant. I love having conversations with people about that, because something like, you see a book on the shelf called Akio The Dreamworld. To anybody on the surface, that's just another book, which it is. It very much is to the average eye. But there is a whole story behind it. There's a whole story behind what went into the process. There's 2.5 years of working towards the goal of this blue small book. A 2.5 year process with lots of emotional stuff going into it, a lot of emotional story in it, so the why. So anybody who actually wants to know more about that, I am more than happy to talk to them about it. I would love to impart my story, my journey on it, and see if there's a similar, and if in any way possible, if I can, help them, break through some of those walls that they might have.
And again, guys, if you are watching this on the replay, take advantage. You've got an author in here. If you're thinking about writing a book, take advantage. Even if you're thinking about writing a blog or copyright for a website, take email marketing, take advantage. You've got this, you've got access to a resource in this group. Feel free to ask a question and someone's going to answer it. If I'll have a writing question, Carl will definitely answer it, because I will ask that question. Feel free to tap into his knowledge as well. Carl, how can people get the book?
So you can get them from me. There will be hard copies, but I've always said that I think the best way is Amazon. It's where we put the ebook as well. You go to Amazon, you can do the buying options, you can get hard copy, you can get an ebook copy. I think the best way, I mean, Amazon, ever since I've joined it, I've nothing bad to say about Amazon. They have been brilliant since the day I joined them, and You know, not only for just, you know, the video Prime and, you know, buying stuff from Amazon, but
Yeah.
they've been brilliant with the putting the Kino up on there. You know, that is a brilliant platform to put my book. You can get it from the Waterstones online shop as well. You know, it is on there. They do have the wrong cover on the picture, which they still haven't.
Yeah. Don't remind me.
Yeah, but I've emailed them about it as well, and they still haven't changed it. It is the wrong cover, but I promise you, you will get sent a proper blue version. I promise you. So that, I mean, yeah, I'll put the Amazon link, in fact, on the video once we're finished, because I do think that's the best place to go. I mean, Waterstones is good for kind of. I kept sending them people there initially because you can have a pick up from store option.
Yeah.
And I kept saying to people, pick up from store option, because that way maybe they might go, oh, this is actually quite an interesting or quite popular book. So I started doing that, but then I sort of moved into the whole, you know, I do want ebook as well. We need to look at a conversion, and that's when Amazon seemed a bit more, just seemed a better place to have it.
Yeah.
You know, because
if you've been following the news today, you know, Jeff Bezos has made himself a little bit more richer.
Oh, really?
His stock went up by 10 billion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's now definitely still the richest man in the world. All that based upon books. But again, like what I said earlier, he dabbled, but he became a master in one area being books. And then from that, everything else expanded from it. And hence why the online platform. You know, like I said, you know, we can talk about that all day long. But in the meantime, we're coming close to the end. And Carl, you know, again, EWA, which is the Entertainment Wrestling Association, is based in High Wycombe.
Yes, indeed, High Wycombe.
And what is your plan for this year? Because I've seen some of the rumblings in the news about we're going to be getting our shows happening in August, some in September, some in November. You know, where do you feel with your promotion coming back?
Personally, I think that it's not really the best of ideas to come back before 2021, in my opinion. Okay. I think there's a number of things that go into that. There's certainly work to be done for the British independent wrestling scene. Different things that need to be addressed, different things that should have already been changed. You know, the way of the old school, I've always said, and anybody who's sort of worked with me or known me has always thought that I've always said the old school way needs to go. There's a new way of doing things now. You know, there are us, you know, young, vibrant, you know, determined people that are doing it for the real care and the real love of entertaining a crowd. So we need to make sure that the new way is more important. But the thing, especially with COVID-19, is that your audience has to feel safe. You know, you're not going to know how someone's going to feel about, do I want to take my child to somewhere that's got 200, 300 people in the building? You wouldn't be surprised if the answer was no, because no one knows what's going on with this virus. You know, it is this invisible, never before seen situation. I just think we as the promoters and a form of entertainment have a responsibility to make sure that we are not doing anything that might be the wrong decision. You know, if we put on a show and 200 people turn up, before we have to, you know, it's known that it's safe to do so. I just think that's irresponsible. You know, I know it's personally, I think it's irresponsible. You know, I can't comment on anything that anyone wants to do. It's their barbecue, and whatever they want to do and whatever they want to put on that barbecue is completely up to them. But I think in terms of us, I just think we have to be responsible about this. And there needs to be enough time for us to figure out, you know, is the virus gone? How safe are we as, you know, the actual entertainers? How safe are the workers, you know, getting in there and wrestling each other? How safe are the crowd? You know, everything that goes into it. Like, you know, 3 first aiders and 1 paramedic can't take care of 200 people. You know, if there's a mass outbreak, you know, we have to make sure that everything is looked at properly and every scenario is worked over. And, you know, like when we do our risk assessments, We actually do two. We do two different ones. We do because we've got two different venues, and there's lots of different things. But you even equate for the variables just on those two risk assessments. The same applies with COVID-19. You have to look at every single variable that could happen. You have to look at them. It's your responsibility to look at them. So, yeah, I mean, these posts going up about people going, oh, we've got a show in August, or even those that are saying, oh, September the whatever. My question would be, quite respectfully, are you sure?
It's not a dig at anyone, and again, it is just every promoter will have their own opinions. By all means, whatever you decide to do, you decide to do. Whoever sees this sees it. Take it as it's supposed to be. Everyone's going to be different and have a different approach. From what you've said, from your risk assessment, where you stand. So it's good to know that. But again, if you do want your wrestling fix, then of course visit the website. There's plenty of backstage footage, including me. Yes, I have to get myself in and plug myself as well. Carl, it's been absolutely a pleasure having you on here today. Thank you for taking time out and giving us the benefit of your wisdom. Look at the process behind it, and hopefully, if anyone else is watching this, they'll feel a little bit more comfortable in not losing hope or losing the team. You get what I mean?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's been a pleasure, talking to you about it, and it's interesting how a couple of months ago everyone was spouting on social media, be kind. A lot of people have forgotten that. It's helping anywhere that you can help someone, or each and every opportunity that you can hold your hand out to pull someone up. It should be. The arm should always be extended, and life would be a much happier, wonderful place if there were more arms extended to those who needed it. So, yeah, more than happy to speak to anybody or anyone who wants to send me a message or ask anything on Hattie's page. More than happy to speak to anybody about it.
Well, Harry said something. Amazing live stream. Thank you for this, and take care and stay safe, you too. Thank you so much for that, Harry. I will be back tomorrow. I'm going to be talking about one of my unique perspectives on the mortgage industry. Mortgage prisoners. What are they, and why are they around? Far more, how do you get out of mortgage? Get my teeth back in. How do you get out of mortgage prison? So important. If you know anyone who's a mortgage prisoner, they need to tune into this and see it. I will be back tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Take care of yourselves. A wonderful evening. See you there.